constantly warned as an undergraduate and then a graduate student and then a professor against ever talking about Jung in any way whatsoever. No psychologist studied Carl Jung, like literally, virtually none. And even Adler, to some degree, they were off limits for scientifically trained behavioral psychologists. And that's what I was and am. There were no courses in psychoanalytic theory at McGill. I read Jung completely on my own. And he was a strange person, introverted visionary, and also God only knows what his IQ was. I mean, I haven't read anyone I regard as deeper than Jung. He's terrifying, truly terrifying. He believes that the pathway to completion as a human being is through the embodiment of the monster.
Embodiment of the monster.
That's the discovery of the shadow, you see. So Jung didn't believe that you could be a good person until you realized your capacity for evil. I don't mean acted it out in the world.
But understand that it's possible.
Well, not only understand it, but then to bring it under your control. You see, because there's a big difference between someone who's naive and is a good person. They're naive, they're a good person because they can't not be. They're like a domesticated house cat. And I've had clients like this. Well, I love my child. I love my mother so much that I couldn't survive if anything happened to them. It's like, you have some serious thinking to do about that. It's like, you really want to curse someone with that kind of love, do you? I couldn't live without you. It's like, my God, get away from me. Really. It's terrible. That's the Oedipal mother, right? That's like, I'll forgive you no matter what you do. It's like, really? No matter what I do, eh? You are not my friend. That's for sure. Not at all. It's a horrible thing to do to someone. You want the person to be able to stand on their own, and the price you pay for that is that you stand on your own. It's like, good to have you around. Glad you're here. But if and when tragedy strikes either of us, I hope that one of us is standing when it blows past. And that there's a harshness about that that's unbelievably cruel, because, you say, well, if my mother died, I could live. Well, what kind of monster are you exactly? The death of your mother doesn't do you in? Well, it turns out that being a monster is the right thing. And that's the Jungian encounter with the shadow. So Jung said, for example, that the roots of the shadow go all the way down to hell. And what he meant by that is that if you start to understand who you are, then you understand the Nazis. I can understand Nazis. And the reason for that is because I can see that as an aspect of myself, truly. But one of the things that's so interesting, it's terrifying to realize that, which is why it's terrifying to realize the shadow, which is why people don't do it. It's no wonder they don't do it. It's a horrible thing to realize that you're human and what being human means. Like angel, like Christ to Satan, that's the human being. And I really like that idea. Well, here's an example. And so again, in the Harry Potter stories, you see, he's touched by evil, right? He actually has a soul fragment that's embedded within him that's as black as anything can possibly be. That's why he could talk to snakes. But without that, he wouldn't be able to have any victory. And that's exactly right psychologically. Unless you can think the way that an evil person thinks, then you're defenseless against them, because they'll go places you can't imagine and then they win. And so the best men I've met, it was interesting even when I was in junior high and high school, because most of my friends dropped out, by the time they were grade 10, thereabouts. And a lot of them were guys who developed physically. They're pretty powerful and they're just damn sick of putting up their hand to go to the bathroom. It was like, they're not doing that anymore. One of my friends got kicked out when he sort of challenged the gym teacher, physically. And the gym teacher, he could do an iron cross. He was a tough guy. And so it was no trivial matter for my friend to stand up to him, but he got expelled anyways. But, I noticed that it was often the kids whose character I admired that either quit or got expelled. And they were the tougher guys who were just sick and tired of following rules that didn't take into account their character. And then they'd go off and work in oil rigs or whatever. That was really hard work, So it wasn't like they were necessarily taking the easy path. But like, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control.
Would you like butter on that, sir?